Hmm. Okay, so we're perhaps doing the practice with the feeling that we're continuing on our heroic journey. It's exploration of the world within. And quite often we start the practice with just becoming aware of how you're sitting. And sometimes it's summed up with sitting with this feeling of dignity. And the idea of saying, okay, it's time to meditate. Now I'm going to try to meditate would be quite counterproductive. So first of all, we just start to pay attention to our world within. What thoughts are happening? And you can't go looking for thoughts because then that's just another thought. It's more a sense of listening. What thoughts are with you right now? Noticing that they just happen. You don't decide to have the thoughts. Noticing that sometimes we get involved and sometimes we don't. And then, whether we recognize it or not, there is always an internal weather. There's always an underlying feeling. It might be one we like, it might be one we don't like, it might be one that we find boring. But what's your internal weather? How are you feeling right now? And how would it be to ask yourself, how are you feeling without fear of advice or need to improve or not being good enough? But just like you would ask a friend, how are you feeling? And listen. It might be great, it might be not so great. What's it like to just be really honest with yourself? Not trying to cover anything up. not trying to improve something. My grandma used to say, I am as I am if I'm not as I ought to be. Is it like today, right now, in this world within? John Kabat-Zinn said something that struck me. He said, for a society that spends so much time thinking about our bodies, we spend very little time in our body. So here's an invitation to see how it feels to be in this body right now. What sensations do you notice? And the habit of describing the sensations and talking about them might still be there. But is it possible, just for a moment, to experience the sensations as they happen? Setting aside the feeling of how it's supposed to be and having the courage, perhaps, to experience sensations as they happen. And where in your body do you notice the breath? What movements happen naturally in the body as breath comes and goes? Mindfulness is all about choice. What would it be like to choose to stay with the breath, to have some awareness of breath as a kind of reference point? how much attention would you need of being with the breath so that you don't feel too tight and that you're on duty and busy? To be at ease, just knowing that you're breathing. But there is a sense of knowing, and that's what we maintain. And if you find yourself lost and thinking, how did I get there? It happens. That too is a moment of mindfulness, recognizing. And then, with no particular sense of blame, just come back to knowing that you're breathing. It's a kind of balance between not too loose and not too tight. It's not trying to make the mind go calm. It's kind of learning to surf with the waves. And always knowing that you can steady yourself with this awareness of breath, feeling it rather than thinking about it. just enough awareness of the breath to feel at ease, to feel at home. To have a place to come back to. And then perhaps for a few moments, we give ourselves permission to not really even meditate. To just be awake. And we know that we can't hold on to the practice. But before we close this session, we can kind of make an aspiration. When I feel a bit lost during the day, I'm going to notice it. I'm going to recognize it. And I'm going to use my practice to come home, to reset. And also perhaps an aspiration that if we find a bit of freedom in our own mind, it's going to enable us to be more present for others. And then we share the benefits of the practice, not in a sense of I know how this is going to look, just that willingness to share the benefits of the practice. Let it go. Trust that the benefits will reach out to others.